Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and we are talking about the High Priestess, or the POPESS. This is Venus Unplugged, and what we explore in Venus Unplugged are all things Venusian, whether it be the archetype of Venus, whether how she lives in our life, in our art, in our dreams, relationships, shadow, whatever way this divine feminine is working in our lives and in our culture is expressed and thought about here. So hopefully part of what you're receiving in this Venus Unplugged series is a way to think psychologically, psyche's logic. It's not a mind logic. It's the logic of symbolism. And I chose to explore the 22 major arcana of the Tarot, not as a divinization process, but as a way, as tools to enhance the symbol of the card we need. It evokes the symbols inside ourselves, or we don't know that we have that, or we don't know that we can use, activate, images activate. That's why if you go to a museum, it can activate such other worlds, or it can completely exhaust you because the images are so new. It's like you're trying to process, and so you can take an hour of museums, and people think they should spend like 8 hours or something absorbing everything, which is very hard to do. And even museums is the muse. It's meant to evoke. So this symbol, now in the divination world, okay, so people who are working, the Tarot is an archetypal language, and it helps us communicate with the divine or with the gods. And we use it for divination when all of the other avenues of commentary have failed or questioning has failed. And only then, in serious need, does one call on the oracle. So it's not a game. What people will have, because that's one of the things I got into using Tarot simply because it was too weird for people. I didn't even know where it was coming from. They'd get more concerned with, like, why are you saying that? And it's like, the cards are saying it. So, but often in a session, people find out about me as a last resort. I would never do anything like this. And that's good. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You've exhausted your efforts. You have tried different ways and didn't work. And finally, you're ready. I'm desperate. I might even believe. Now that's a fertile moment. People can get insulted. I don't. I think it's marvelous. Because it's the last effort, okay, on that level of consciousness of how they understand that what their world is about. And so it's like, Jesus, I guess I got to go in, or, and people only find out about me when they do. That's the way it's always operated. So this card, it's the second card in the Tarot. It's called either the High Priestess or the POPESS. Now, there is a quote from Esther Harding. This comes from a book called A Woman's Mysteries, Ancient and Modern, by Esther Harding. And Esther Harding is one of the first-generation Jungians. This is all about the moon and our relationship to the moon. And definitely the High Priestess activates the moon, the unknown, the unconscious. Okay? So this quote, the first time I read it, it had to be like 30 years ago. And I read this, and I went into despair and joy all at the same moment, because it was like, this is it. This is it. Here it is in one paragraph. This is what I long for. Now, of course, little did I know what I was setting up for myself, but there it was. So the quote is, "The woman who is virgin, one in herself, does not, because of any desire to please, nor to be liked, or to be approved of, even by herself, not because of any desire to gain power over another, but because what she does is true." To me, that is like what it would be like and is like to be on the road of individuation. You're not pandering to anybody. It is the truth of your being, because it comes up from that place when, and this is also what the POPESS God, or the high priestess, helps us with, all right? So when we need to feel free to displease the collective, which is a huge image, all right? And instead of feeling the terror of rejection, we know that we are blessed amongst women. So that goes with the mother, the virgin, the crone. The collective is what they say. And when it's like, oh, that's interesting, but cool, but you have no particular interest, whether you please or displease of the reigning thought or belief system, then you're really free. It's neutral. You become virginal. Virginal is not a sexual state of being. Virginal is being integrated. We just don't have any pure and coming from the true sense of the self. So that's part of what this card can provoke in us, because the high priestess, she's connected to the moon. And some now remember, the world of symbolism is the world of psyche and of the conscious, unconscious, and symbolism is what all religions are built on. It's a series of symbols, and then they've got a bunch of rituals they throw in, and that's how that begins to happen. But in truth, that's really what it is. And does this set of symbols appeal to your psyche or not? If it doesn't appeal, you're not going to choose that, because symbols are vast and mysterious and image provoking. That's why when we work with the 22 major arcana as a way, as a tool, so you can meditate on it in the morning, you can bring it with you. You can say, I'm really having a hard time with understanding the depths of my soul, and I really need the high priestess to mirror this for me, or to teach me the way of the moon, because I'm just becoming moody instead of moon-like, reflective. You need to remember that, it's by the light of the moon, which means reflective thought, that we see shadows better than by the light of the sun. The sun is blinding, as very often, patriarchal opinion is. It's blinding. This is the absolute truth. It's like, well, yeah, but what's that little speck behind there? And then the moon comes, or we reflect. We get home and we reflect on something, or we meditate, or we have a dream. Then all of a sudden the dream, it goes like, no, that's not your truth. The POPESS of the high priestess is also the Black Madonna, and she's the patron saint of abandoned daughters who rejoice in their outcast. And they can state and can use it to renew the world. So when we've been banded or rejected for what we know to be true of our being. I mean, some people get a campaign and get in people's face. That's not what the high priestess would guide us to do. She would say, there's an inner world, there are inner powers. And one of the images is she has these two scrolls, which are the scrolls of truths and opposites, kind of like the yin yang, but only it's in scrolls. So that's part of when you need to kind of battle with the opposites. Because if we choose one over the other, there's really no new growth. So when we catch the opposite and we can hold that, we're going to get a whole new insight. So if we realize that, the opposite of love is not hatred, the opposite of love is power. And if we can just hold on to that, like, wow, am I really loving, or, do I want power over somebody? Which very often, if you loved me, you would do this. Well, it looks like I don't love you, because if you're going to set it up that way, I don't love you. But that would take the virginal state. You'd have to be free to displease the collective. A woman called me the other day, lovely woman, and she gave me a little bit of her story, and she kept on saying, but I feel bad. And I stopped her, and I said, all right, so what do you feel bad about? Where's the guilt? She couldn't quite, that's a saying people say, but very often that's code for, I want to kill the little worm ball, but that wouldn't be nice because I'm supposed to be loving and giving and, have my, breath sucked off my chest because that's what women do. So I feel bad. It's like what you feel bad about is you want to smack the person and get away from it. And what you feel bad about is you're not being true to the feminine, to her way. This is true both in men and women. So if you find yourself saying, I feel bad, stop it and look at what is that you feel bad about. Now we can have an earnest experience of guilt or shame, and we've really done something to ourselves or to another. Okay, that's honest. We look at it. All right, I got a question. Yeah, that wasn't so clean. Okay. So I thought I was holier than thou. Now look what I found. So that's different. But when it's a constant saying, I feel bad, and you don't examine it, you need the high priestess to be able to go in to that strange place and see it through reflective thought. Gee, I wonder what I was doing there. What was that about? The light of the moon is diffused. And it's interesting if you have a problem and you want to work it out, or you see a pattern within yourself, and the high priestess guides you like, whoa, look at this. This keeps on occurring in your life. Pose that problem to the different phases of the moon, and you'll come out with different reflections. It's like a kaleidoscope. We turn it, and every time we turn it, the same number of broken pieces of colored glass are in there, but it keeps on making this infinite pattern. Well, the same is true with teachings. The same is true, you're infinite. Your soul is infinite. You may be asleep, but psyche is not. And this is what the high priestess connects us to. See, she connects us to the great meaning and the kind of bestowing powers in the unconscious. And these inner figures, in this case the high priestess or the POPESS, they also create meaning and meaningful coincidences in the outer reality. That's part of what they do. So I hear people say, I want to be sexy, or I want to attract. You want to be sexy? There's only one thing you have to do. Love sex. And if you're not willing to love sex with all of you, all right, with the shadow and the light, and it's not what we wear, it's none of those things. It's really that love of Eros, that I want to go where my body or my psyche or my soul takes me. I love sex. Say that out loud. And very often you're going to get in trouble. I mean, it's not really trouble. It's like good trouble. It's like shake 'em up trouble. Because you'll either get the puritanical, it's like, how could you? Yeah, that's disgusting. No, it's not. But that's what it takes to be sexy. Loving that Eros, loving that connection, and all that it brings and gives and grows. Right. So you could save a fortune on push-up bras that don't do you any good, and they hurt anyway. It's about being it, feeling it in your body. So one of the images also with this high priestess, she can also be seen as the Popess, which is actually an older symbol. And there is a story about, and it's called Pope Joan. And I think there was a movie. I remember reading this. And sometimes I read things and then I have dreams and they appear like movies, and I think that the movies, but they were just, not just, they were a dream, but I'm pretty sure there was a movie. And Pope Joan was the first female pope, and she was called Pope John, and no one caught on until she gave birth one day. Now, could you imagine the papal conspiracy that would have evoked? But what is that about? What's this story, this well-loved story about Pope Joan? What does it evoke in us? Because, now it's starting to change, but unless we were into some esoteric order where the priestess was equally as powerful in terms of religion, you didn't have a chance. You had no power. Which is insulting. I think it was only like 150 years ago that the church decided we had souls. Kind of insulting. So this Pope Joan, it's this wonderful image. So she's disguised as a priest, and then little by little she becomes this pope, and no one suspects Pope John was a woman until the day she gave birth. Wow. Love that image. So this tale has no foundation in fact, but it's a beloved myth. And the stories that we love are autobiographical internally. I love that story because somewhere it's in me. The same thing happens with the Tarot. So we look at this image of the Popess. Where is she in you? Who is this authority? The Pope. It's a local call. It's not a long-distance call to connect to the powers. And, of course, the High Priestess is number 2. Number 1 is the the Magician. So these symbols, these images, one moves into the other. One's an unfoldment of the other. So when we start working with this, and this is particularly a good card to be carrying with you this week, and it is because it's Holy Week and it's Passover. There's profound magic. And it's not just on those days. It's the 72 hours before and the 72 hours after. We're in the presence of magic. That's why the outer world kind of feels like a day late and a dollar short. It's like, what's going on here? Because all of this, thousands of years of magic are being provoked. It's in the air. And if we know what we're looking at, then we can experience the divine spirit. So in the symbol of the High Priestess, this is the divine spirit, but it's through women alone. And it's that the spirit is made flesh. So the magician, it's like from the point of view of the masculine, it's law and order. That's Apollo. And even in the magic, there is law and there is order. There are, cosmic and esoteric laws that we have to apply, and there is an order, and we apply those, and there is a certain outcome. Usually, what really begins to happen is it starts a process within the psyche, and we see it because we see the world differently. And that's what's very important. So in this the Popess, she's rooted in place, and she sits on the throne, and it sits on the throne of Isis. And the throne is also the number 4. So when we turn 40, it has nothing to do with an age. We inherently can sit on that throne of Isis. And the 4 is the number of the earth. We're here. We've done what we need to do, and now we can start the journey of the high priestess and to sit on our throne, and not our throne, her throne, and go for the wisdom. Discover the Black Madonna. The Black Madonna was Sophia. This is a powerful image. And women who were rejected by their mothers or by the feminine in some way, that's your mama, the Black Madonna. Because she takes whatever is rejected and she transforms it. So we can be rejected because we want to be a high priestess. We can be rejected because we want to be an artist. Whatever we get rejected from the collective, the Black Madonna, the Popess or the high priestess, she's the one that will protect you while you grow into the consciousness that this image and symbol lives in you and is yours. Now, you are not the archetype, but the archetype lives in you. So, in the first card, the magician's power, it's like fiery and hot and bright and flashing, and it's the power of the sun. Or if you even watch, it's just something spectacular, bedazzling about magic. Even though it can be very quiet and solemn, there's still this something's going to blow, all right? But with the Popess, her power it's the water. It's cool and it's dark and it's fluid and it's this kind of moon power, right? So the magician controls by quick force and knowledge and ideas, but she rules by slow persistence, love, and feminine patience. Now, patience is not waiting for the other person to see your point of view. Got it? I'll have patience, he'll come around. Really? That's not patience. That's will. If I can will and outweight this person, I'll get my way. Patience is being able to hold that tension of the opposites while you're exploring, is this love or is this power? What am I up to here? And the patience is giving time, cycles. People who love astrology, they're into cycles. Cycles of the moon, everybody knows the luck of the number of 7. It's a cycle, but it's also Saturn. But the positive side of Saturn, that gives us patience. By the time Saturn finishes, you've been chewed up, spit out 7 times, and then you have the patience. It's part of what the wisdom of aging or maturing. We've gone through enough Saturn trials and tribulations that time is no longer the enemy. We observe, we wait, and we have a deep respect. Everything blossoms in its own season and dies in its own season. So that is also one of the gifts she gives us. It's this power for the feminine patience. So what she brings to our world is the magic is, it's veiled, it's hidden, and it's like her hair. Her hair is always covered, not this flowing. When you see images or you see tarot and the hair is flowing, that's ideas, and hair carries a lot of electricity, and we have actually, I just thought of it. A lot of people have been having high density electricity in their hair, and that's the Uranian energy. It's like we're all being fried with this electrical energy. And it's literally showing up in our hair. It's we wake up, it's like standing on ends. Or sometimes when we get a great idea, our hair or the hair on the back of our neck stands up. These are all hints. We're in the presence of the sacred. And with this, the goddess Isis, which is also one of the symbols of the high priestess, in her dark form, the dark Isis, she rules the esoteric, the women's mysteries. In the green Isis, when she appears in that way, she's kind of an emerald green, then she is the mysteries of the earth and blossoming. So there's two, the green and the black. But whatever form she comes in, she tells you, I'm everything that was, that is, and that will be. Oh, she's a great sidekick. And she's the realm of deep inner experience. It's not the world of external knowledge. It is the world. There are truths that you cannot prove, and yet they're true nonetheless. And that's her realm. So when you need, or you're doubting, or you're in an internal power struggle, as well, the world says this, or, my daddy says this, or my accountant says this, what do you say? What do you say? Now, a lot of times people will use that as an excuse. They want somebody else to say it because it seems like they've got more power, or that we don't know what we're really feeling. But then we have to say, okay, I know what they say, but what do I say? So particularly this week, working with this high priestess or the POPESS, okay, is to work also with Mary and the three Marys. So there's the Virgin Mother Crone, but there's the three Marys again, Virgin Mother Crone. So all of these are hints at the presence of the high priestess. So use her, okay, or relate to her, so that we can speak to that inner high priestess within. She is our beloved mother of the mysteries. And we learn to act in creative ways and in the special providence of the feminine principle. It's always colored by emotion, right? And emotion is the kind of energy that comes from what we value on a feeling level. Feelings are our heart values. So this this high priestess, obviously Empress wants to get in here. So this high priestess or this POPESS, and imagine it, play with it, get the movie. And there was also it was a haunting book, little book, as haunting books can be. It was called The Sibyl. And it was about this woman in the Delphi oracles, and she's chosen to be an oracle. And it's fascinating. And very often we resist being chosen because we don't want to leave the collective values. That's what all the training is about. Being untaught what is no longer true to us. Don't you remember as a kid thinking, I don't know, that doesn't sound true. And then, who are you to question? Well, it's your world. So use our beloved lady, the high priestess. She will guide you well and strong. Till next week. Bye-bye.
They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide, now playing. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13. Appropriate for children under 13.